Morning. It is Monday, December 30th today. So we are still in our holiday week. We're Reseller Revenue Facebook group. If you have not gone and joined us, it's still free until Wednesday is the beginning of the new year. So you got one more day to binge watch everything on Patreon that's available and free right now. So go over to our Patreon, watch all the videos that are recorded. And then if you want to join us live or continue to have access to the calls, you need to join one of the 3 levels of membership that's on the Patreon now. So if you have a membership, whether it's free or paid currently on Patreon, it needs to be moved to one that starts with 2025, which I think those should be the only ones that are visible to you guys now. Because starting third, access will be changed to paid only in the Facebook group and on Patreon. So please make those changes. I understand a lot of you guys are waiting till the 1st because sometimes Patreon does weird things with the billing cycles if you're already a paying member. So that's totally fine. I won't be changing anything till January 3rd. So I really appreciate everybody. We're going to do Monday metrics to get us kicked off before I forget. And also before I forget, Larry's call today sounds really interesting and it's at 10 o'clock Central Time. And he's going to do like a recap of the best of 2024 of his calls. So that sounds really good. So if you haven't caught Larry's playlist on Patreon, I made a playlist that's just the Reseller Repair Workshop. I'd catch it. It's got a lot of great information for everybody. So let's hop in and do our metrics, Monday metrics, which is super important because otherwise the Monday metrics can get away from us. So if I wasn't prepared, I don't have eBay pulled up, Pam. All right, so anybody that's new or just needs a refresher, go to your, not your watch list, go to your seller hub. And then we'll start here, go under orders, and you can either do it from the pull down menu or on the left-hand navigation. And first, let's check our returns. I have one return available, and this one, I don't know if she will. I don't know, she sent me a message that said it was missing a rhinestone, and basically I ruined her Christmas because she was going to give it as a gift. And the very first line in big capital letters of the description said missing one rhinestone. But I told her she's more than welcome to still return it, but I haven't heard back. Then go down to your requests and disputes. These are going to be things that they opened a case against you with. So when we talk about people opening cases against you, this is what I'm talking about. This one is covered, and you'll be able to see here if you are covered by eBay seller protections on cases, it will tell you you're protected for the dispute, and they will take care of it for you. One of the things that we are protected against is doesn't recognize the transactions. So we are covered on those. eBay will take care of that for us. So no worries if you have one of those. Then go to our performance tab and go to seller level. And hopefully we are all top rated. If we are not, just make sure what's going on there, what's happening. You can pull down the little, we're only really worried about the current and next evaluation, but the next evaluation isn't until January 20th. So this is the time where we can actually have a little room to mess with here a little bit, to improve. So make sure you're improving, doing what we can to get back up to the top rated level. Transaction defect rate, hopefully we are all at 0. If you are not at 0, we need to know why. And you can pull down that tab here and hit get full report. This transaction period ends December 31st. So just know that. Sometimes it feels like it doesn't line up right, but this one's December 31st. My late shipment rate, I absolutely know what happened there. My mail carrier didn't come, and I, can't walk down the stairs, so I didn't realize he hadn't come until the post offices were all closed around me. So we don't have any of those great midnight closing post offices. So that's what happened there. And there's not a darn thing I can do about it. So I just watch it. And tracking uploaded on time and validated was out of the exact same issues. So, we're going to have things from time to time that happen. Just make sure we're keeping an eye on it. Now we're going to go up to, guess we'll go back here. And we're going to go to the performance tab again and go to our service metrics. This has to do with our returns. My Zoom bar is out to get me today. It's in the way. All right, so here's our return level. Our current rate and our projected rate is what we're worried about. So here's the current rate. This is through November, at least mine is. Everybody's time periods may be different depending on how much volume you're selling. And then here on the projected rates, what I'm worried about, it's through December. And I am clear down here at low, so I am good to go. I know 5 returns isn't fabulous, but out of 1,395 transactions, I'll take it. And just keep an eye on this. And, I'm actually really happy with this because, I have that issue with a bunch of returns. So clear back, I think it was like in October. So at least I'm going to hopefully make it through that without ever paying the high little fee. If we get in that very high category, we have to watch it. They're going to charge us extra money once we hit that, like 5%, I think it is 5 or 6%. It does have to be at least 10 transactions. So do know that. If we keep ourselves below 1%, they always keep pumping us to the average. So it's good, that's when volume helps you out too. So make sure that you're all good. Make sure that you don't have any, the zeros and that good stuff underneath our I can't remember what it's called. It's under your seller thing. Larry says with his very low sales during recent vacation, he's fallen below 400 items for the past 90 days. So now his valuations are past year, not 90 days. Some bad stuff has resurfaced, but it should clear once he gets back to 90 days. And that's exactly what happens, Larry. It's just one of those things. And a lot of sellers in here are on that 90-day, like between 90 day and a year teeter-tottering, just right on that verge. And so our bad things do resurface. But once he hits it to get it down to back up to the 90 days, you'll be fine. So, yep, that happens. Does anybody have any questions about their seller metrics? Maybe you notice something that doesn't look right. Doesn't.
Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning, everybody. Lisa.
Good morning, everybody. Quick question. So on duplicate orders, when people are buying more than one thing, do we need to move the tracking number over to those other items?
You mean combined?
Yeah, I'm sorry, combined. Yeah, shipping.
Yes. So either combine them in the order before you buy the label, and that will combine it for you. Or if you don't do it that way, if you do one by one, you just need to hit add tracking.
Yeah, because I think that might have been one of my late uploads or didn't upload kind of thing. I never did that. And I had a few, combined orders or this, and I looked and I was like, I wonder if I should put that over there. Because I thought it automatically did it because I did combine it before shipping. So, but the tracking doesn't show on a couple of the items. So I'm like,
it should if you combined it before you hit the buy shipping label, but sometimes things happen. Just keep an eye on it. If you think you can find it, you can go to the challenge defect, remove defect on eBay seller help, but otherwise just keep an eye on it. You're probably well below where you need to be.
Okay. All right. Welcome back, Larry. And I used the drill yesterday. It worked out great. Just FYI.
Excellent.
All right. So let me see where I'm at here. Larry had an INAD situation. Did you see my response to that, Larry?
Yeah, I just read it. I think I'm going to, what I'm not hearing is any comments about me interacting with the client, with the buyer. My thought was to try and just tell them this text that basically says, because of this and because of that, I'm not in a position to give you a refund. Another piece of me is saying, heck with it, it's only, $40, move on.
Did you recount your days?
No, I have not.
I bet he's still in the 30 days with delivery.
I would imagine so too.
I would ask him to open up the return immediately because then you're protected from feedback.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
if you send him a message saying, I can't do this, but really you can, and then he opens a case against you, it's going to look really bad that you lied. But if he's outside his days of delivery, then you're totally cool. And then you can say, hey, we're outside of our 30-day window. However, I don't know if it's an INAD, he can probably still push it with eBay.
yeah.
I would
So
ask him to,
I did a lot of research on how much time does he have to file on an INAD, and there's no definitive
yeah,
answer to that. I mean, can somebody give you an INAD 9 months after they bought something?
no, but I think if you're within the 30, if it'll allow him to open up a return, that's your best bet in my opinion, because then at least you're covered with the feedback.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Yep. For those of you that didn't see the post, Larry had a guy that was like on day 34 of the payment that wanted to file an INAD about the security system and use and you worded it fine, Larry. Your listing was probably fine, but I think most sellers stay away from those because they're always, if they've been used, they're linked to the other person's account like forever and ever, and it's hard to get it unprogrammed if at all.
Yeah.
So, but Larry did word it that way. He was very much transparent with his listing. So I don't think
I
there's anything wrong with it.
in anticipation of the next one, I put together the following text that I'm going to put in the chat.
This used item is being sold for parts or not working because I'm unable to test its functionality. It may or may not function properly. It is sold as is parts, repair, refurbished, and includes only items shown in the pictures. By purchasing this item, you acknowledge and agree to the poor parts or not. So we can't say that we can't give them new terms necessarily because it will not override eBay's terms. So the whole acknowledging thing, I don't think yeah, that's iffy, but the rest of it's perfect. I
Okay.
would stay away from used security systems personally. I think they're if you ever watch other content creators, it's always a problem. They're always a problem. Like people complain about it all the time. It's always an issue with customers.
Ah.
And as we know, customers don't read, right? It's just a problem. So they don't read the
Like
description.
your rhinestone problem this morning.
Yeah,
Or
and it was in capital letters, first sentence. And she actually put, I hate sellers like you that don't put things in their description. And I was like, well, the very first line was Missy Rhinestone. So
Wow.
just do what you can. Yeah, just do what you can, Larry. I actually would be hopeful that it'll still let him open up a return. Yeah, there's also a liability with the security thing. And yeah, I hear lots of content creators say stay away from them, don't touch them. But that's just me. Um, yeah. So that was the deal. And
well,
Larry
the
did go
other
to the
thing
law.
the other big takeaway, and it's related to the other topic that I'm working through with my business is I'm going to be getting away from this class of product in general, not just security
Yep.
systems, but used electronics.
Yep.
They're harder to ship. There are more returns, etc. I did
They
an
are high
evaluation
returns.
of uh, of the products that I sold last year, as far as the high returns, the high low profit, and amount of labor that I had to put into it. And based on that, I'm adjusting some things.
Yep. Nope. You're totally right on that. Catherine, we can't see your pretty face this morning. Is your camera off on purpose? There you are. And now you're on mute. I see your nice laugh. I don't hear it. There you
There.
go.
I had my little button thing turned, so
That's
good
what I figured.
morning.
Good morning.
Um, I got a message from a buyer that said this item hasn't shipped yet, so I looked it up and it did ship on the 17th, but it's not tracking, so I'm assuming that the post office didn't scan it correctly or something. But she hasn't received it yet that I know of. So, I feel like normally I would step in and ask USPS to I'd give them the tracking number and say, where is this? And go that route. But if it hasn't been scanned, can they even do anything about it? So do I just then refund the buyer?
It
I
hasn't
sent her a
tracked in
message saying, I
Mhm.
suspect that it wasn't scanned properly. Do you get your packages delivered to your home, or do you get them delivered to a post office box? Please check with your post office and see if it's been delivered. And then, which she won't have a tracking number to do that, but she can, if it's a small town like me, she might be able to ask, And then I haven't heard back from her, but I thought I'm just going to have to probably refund her, right?
If it
Okay.
hasn't tracked, even if it had a scan to begin with, a tracking scan to begin with, if it hasn't moved and updated tracking in 10 days, we have to refund them.
Yeah.
And you can't file a mail claim either because you don't have a tracking number.
No, I know. I figured that because they wouldn't be able to find it any more than I can. So, okay.
Yep, and
Thank you.
that's all we can do. That's all we can do. And you play the same game I do on that. I'm guilty of it. Like that whole bin was, I'm lucky I didn't get like 30 late shipments, but because that whole bin was sitting there, I can't do stairs. Rowdy had set it outside. Rowdy left for the day, and Jed found it on his way home, and the guy hadn't come. And I had a big fit at the post office, and they're like, "Oh, well, we just thought that." I don't know what they thought, but they said, "Yeah, we're sorry" or whatever. But it's still, and that was my fault because I don't go stand at the line at the post office like we have to. But I also know that can happen to me. So when we do that, I've had the same thing, Catherine, and it's always the one that they didn't pick up and scan that seems to like, just that's the ones that disappear, right? So
I know.
yeah, it's 10 days.
And it was just a little pair of earrings, so it could have easily just gotten lost in the holiday shuffle, but okay,
I've had
just
him
wanted
drop
to,
them. I have found my packages dropped, too, where they never made it to his truck. I found them in mud puddles and stuff, so I mean, they're human like the rest of us, but
yeah.
that's just a chance we take not doing that. But I get it too, because I don't do it either. So
All right, thank
yeah,
you.
as far as I know, Lisa, it's just 10 calendar days is how they've always told me, because it goes by the USPS when we can ship and file a claim. So if it hasn't tracked in, it's either 10 or 15 days, then we can file the claim with the post office. So I was going to share the screen too. So I was going to start adding in our Monday metrics. If you go to your account settings, which is in your where you go up to the left by your name, and you click your store name or your name, and it pulls down that little box and you hit account settings. We need to also be checking to make sure that we are doing our resolution hub, because our resolution hub here will have all of our bureaus and any issues we're having with eBay. And if we don't keep an eye on this and we keep getting them, you could absolutely lose your eBay account. So make sure we're just keeping an eye on this. I have mine set to show me the whole last year. So if you have any issues with this, make sure you bring it up. And I do want to start doing this on our Monday metrics, because it's really important, because if you accidentally miss an email from eBay, you may not know you have a problem. So just wanted to share that with you. All right, so today's talk, we're going to base the whole week, which is, I guess, two more days we have. So we'll meet Tuesday and then Thursday. Thursday we'll meet starting at our new time, which is 9 a.m. Central Time. So we'll kick off our first meeting in January at the new time. And so remember that. And so this what I'm going to talk about right now is going to base our whole rest of our week together. Because I want to talk about tomorrow. I want people to come prepared to talk about how this affected their 2024. I want you to go and think about it, and I want you to reflect on it. And we'll talk about, any ideas you had or thoughts you had of your own situation looking back with this way. And then Thursday, I want you to come back with the same, and I may type up some and put it in the group just so you have something to look back on. On Thursday, we'll talk about how this is going to move us forward in 2025. Like, going back and looking at these same things, what are we going to change going into 2025 now that we've had time to think about it? So, in reflection, I want to look back, and then I want to be able to plan forward. So I like to think of plans in terms of quarters. That's just me. You can do your goals or your thoughts or whatever. Your process is based on months or quarters or year or whatever suits you best. I like to do quarters because, things change and our business is kind of fluid. So maybe, for me to set and say I'm going to do this for a whole year is probably a little unrealistic, because, something in my business may change, but the sales may change. So I like to think about quarters. So obvious questions looking backwards on our year, like so many people are right now, is, what went right? What went wrong? How could we do better? That's great, but, what does it mean for our business? But I think when I was starting to think about this topic and trying to do something slightly different than just like, let's reflect on 2024, is I felt like it kept coming back to 3 categories. So I want to kind of talk in categories. And the categories that I feel it always comes back to is consistency, stress, and organization. So what were you not consistent in? Ask yourself that. What did you as a seller, whether you're new, whether you're a seasoned seller, this kind of comes back to all of us. And you got to be honest with yourself. If we lie to ourselves, well, you're only really, gypping yourself. So what were you consistent in listing? And by consistent, I don't mean that we may have changed throughout the year, and that's fine. But if you'd been telling yourself you were a 10-a-day lister, and some days you were a 5-a-day lister, and I'm not talking about when you were sick or had an emergency, then you weren't consistent. Were we giving eBay the consistent list? We know that for whatever reason, eBay thrives off consistency. eBay thrives off of the same listings pretty much every day. That doesn't mean you can't run a great store not doing that. It's just for whatever reason, eBay wants to know who we are and what we're providing on a regular basis. Sourcing, were we consistent sourcers? Do we have a method and a budget and a philosophy about our sourcing that is consistent? Or were we all over the place this year with sourcing? And none of these make you a bad seller. This is just trying to think about how we can get better. So I was not consistent with my sourcing. This year, I started getting to where I had more one-on-one, like personal collection type availability, but that I'm still sourcing the old way too. That doesn't work budget-wise sometimes. So going into the new year, I need to do that. So I'll talk about that a little bit next or tomorrow it'll be. Finances, were we consistent with our finances? And finances can mean lots of things. Finances can be your bookkeeping. Were you consistent on keeping track of your bookkeeping? If not, good news. We have a new year starting and you could start then. Were you consistent with making sure you had positive cash flow? Were you consistent in making sure we were tracking our finances? There's a difference between accounting for taxes and accounting for, doing our bookkeeping. Were you sure about what your net profit per item or your net profit per week was every year? Were you kind of guessing and going with the flow? Those things require consistency. Promoted listings. Were we playing fast and loose with promoted listings this year? Or did we have a theory and a plan? I think sometimes, myself included, it's easy to make knee-jerk reactions based on our sales. That's not being consistent to the business. That's being emotional with the business. Emotions with businesses don't usually work. Aged inventory. Did we have a plan in 2024 on how to get rid of our old stuff that isn't selling or the stuff that should have never been there in the first place, which is probably not selling? Did we have a plan and did we follow it? Or did we get, I talked about last week, I had a couple knee-jerk reactions with like, hey, that's good. I don't want to give it away for that price. And then I reversed the price on it. That doesn't work. That wasn't right. I wasn't being consistent. I will go through these tomorrow and tell you kind of my short, sweet answers to these to kind of help drive your thoughts on them. Accountability to yourself. Were you consistent in being accountable to yourself? Or were there times where you just kind of like closed your eyes and said, you can't see me type of thing? Were you consistent in making sure that you were being good to yourself and honest with yourself? Inventory. Were we consistent in having organized, was our inventory system consistent all year? Did we make any big changes in our inventory process? If we did, was it a good change? Is this one we're going to continue forward with? What does our inventory system look like as far as when it comes in the door? Are we still tossing the bag in the room and shutting the door and not looking? Are we, do we have the processing steps when we get home? That's being consistent with our inventory. And schedule and routine. I use this word kind of interchangeably because I think lots of times we have to have a workflow, not necessarily a schedule. I have non-negotiables during the day. I have to follow those. Does it mean it's going to happen at the exact same time every day? No, it doesn't. It's just in a flow. Some people thrive on schedules of like 9 to 10, I do this, 10 to 11, I do that. Some people that's never going to work for. So we're not all the same people. We're not all the same business owners. We have to make this work for what we are. And I'm totally fine with that. Lots of this is gauged towards people that want to be full-time, but it also works if you're part-time, because I'm totally fine if you're part-time or retired or whatever. And your schedule is, I put up my 3 listings and the rest of the time I go to the beach. Well, that's excellent. That's your schedule. That's what works for your business. But we need to be honest with it and consistent with it. The next one is stress. So what caused you the most stress in your business in 2024? Did you have personal roadblocks? So there's times where we can't help it. You know, somebody gets sick, you get sick, somebody, you know, something breaks. We had to go back to work to raise some extra money. There's personal roadblocks that cause us stress. Just because we can't help it, there's things we can't help, doesn't mean we don't have to think about it and plan around it, right? So things happen to us sometimes, and we got to just work with it. But we have to be consistent with how we work with it. Do we have a plan in place for, okay, I'm really sick, I put it on vacation mode. I'm sick enough, I can't put it on vacation mode. Does anybody in the house know how to do that for me? You know, I had one of those issues this year. You know, I had this surgery. I didn't want it to happen. I didn't want to deal with it, but I had trained Rowdy and Jed to pull my inventory for me. So we have to have plans in place for personal roadblocks, because they're going to happen. I don't care who you are, it's going to happen. Did you have stress with time? Did you feel like you're always behind the 8 ball with time? I know a lot of you feel like you're just never enough hours in the day. That's totally normal. It's going to happen to all of us, but we need to know how to deal with that. How do we fix that's also what I want to talk about on Thursday, is not fix you, but how do we help you get past those roadblocks to make 2025 better for you? So we can talk about that. So tomorrow's just gonna be talking about the reflection. Thursday, I want to talk about, okay, here's your issues. Maybe we can brainstorm and make those better for you. The stress of money. Were you constantly cash poor? Were you able to pay yourself? Do you want to be able to pay yourself? Are you in constant reinvesting in the business and now it's starting to stress you out because you don't always have enough money for inventory? How were those finances? So finances happen to us in consistency, but finances also can cause us stress. Those are two totally different situations, totally different problems, totally different solutions. So if you always felt broke, if you always felt like you didn't have enough money to make those big buys when they came up, we need to figure out what we can do to help you on that. Sourcing. Does sourcing cause you stress? Some of you, I know for a fact, have issues not being able to find enough stuff, right? We don't have enough to list what we want to list every day. Good things, right? Some people are oversourcing and overbuying, and they're killing their business off with it because all their money is sitting in a pile that isn't listed, right? So we can have totally the same issue, but different spectrums there. So we need to think about that. A certain time of year where sales were slow and it stressed us out. That's a stressor for me. We need to be able to plan ahead for our bad times. Plan ahead for when it's, you know, not good, because it's not always going to be good, guys. It's just not. And next fourth quarter might not be as good as this fourth quarter, but lots of times you will see patterns in your sales. You will see months that are consistently good for you, but we need to plan with the months that are bad. So I do my budgets focused around my worst months of the whole year. Because if I can survive my worst month of the year, I can survive the good times too. But if I plan for them all to be good, those bad months are going to be bad. So did it stress you out with negative feedbacks this year? Did you have some feedback issues? Perfectly normal does not mean you're a bad seller, but you're only a bad seller when you aren't reflecting back on the bad feedbacks. And maybe they were bogus, you know, maybe you didn't deserve any of them, but maybe there was some truth that might hurt a little bit in some of the bad feedbacks you got. So the only thing we can do is learn from them. You know, same things happen to me, right? You know, all of a sudden you're like, oh, maybe that wasn't, I could have done better with shipping. I could have done better with how I handled that situation. It's just looking back on how we could have handled it better. But go back and review your feedbacks. Learn from your feedbacks. Did it stress you out when you were shipping? Were you not able to find items? Because that is stressful for me. If I have something that gets misplaced, it will stress me out. And it was stressing me out in 2024. And so I changed something and it helped a lot. But you know what? We're all human. Things are going to get put in the wrong spot. Having a good inventory system will help a lot. But if you're stressed out when you're shipping, or when something, this used to happen to me, when something sells and you're like, oh, because we should always be happy about a sale. But have you guys not had something that's been listed for a really long time and then it sells, and instead of being happy, you're like, oh no, I hope it's still there. I hope I can find it. We shouldn't have to have those feelings. So we can help with that. The listing. Did listing stress you out? If listing is stressing you out, we can help with the processes. We can also help with maybe you're just not ready to be at the listing number that you're putting on yourself. We put too much stress and strain on ourselves with our listings that we expect from ourselves every day. It's stressful, but we can usually fix it. And you don't have to, there's no magic number of this makes you successful. Like I'm a 15 a day, 25 a day, whatever. It's not a contest. It's whatever's going to fit your mold the best, and then we can build on it. But if you grow too fast too soon, it's stressful. And it's okay to take a step back if it helps your business overall. People find that makes them a failure. It does not. It makes you a winner. If you have to take a step back to hone in and make it better, you will be better, which makes everybody win. And then we can build slowly to get back to where you want it to be, because it just wasn't time yet. That's not a failure. A failure is if you keep going at a rate you can't keep doing well and everything falls apart. That feels like failure. But taking a step back and reevaluating and doing better is definitely not failing. And the last one is organization. How much of your business isn't organized when it should be? Bookkeeping is a big one. I don't care what system you guys use. If you have your own way you do it, that is totally fine as long as you're doing it. And bookkeeping is not accounting. You hear me say it a lot. Bookkeeping is tracking things like your net profit per item, your cost of goods, your rolling cost of goods. These are numbers we need like on at least a weekly or monthly basis, because those help us make decisions in the business in current time. Just keeping track of expenses versus income is accounting. And that's great. Once a year, it's great. But it doesn't help us make those business decisions that we have to make all year long, so we can tweak it, because we all are going to need tweaks. We all have to make changes. But how do we make those changes if we don't have those numbers? And that is bookkeeping. You guys know I highly recommend Cheryl's workbook. I have made so many financial spreadsheets in my long career, and I've never made one or been able to replicate one that is as good for reselling as Cheryl's workbook is. It's in the pinned featured post in the Facebook group. Go run and get one if you haven't. Great time of year to get it. We'll start you off right in 2025. Inventory. Are we organized in our inventory? So you can see that we've talked about inventory and finances and stuff in each area, but our problems are different. So organization is a different problem with finances than the stress and other aspects of it, right? So if we are not, but they kind of all play together nicely, right? So if our inventory is not organized, it might be causing us stress. So if you need a new inventory system, there's so many people in this group that have amazing inventory systems and they never lose anything, and it's great. So we can help figure out ways to get you back on track with that. Unlisted inventory, is it eating you alive? Are you stressed out and it's disorganized and you don't know what you have because it's in a pile, it's not organized, and you know that I'm going to keep asking the question, how many days of inventory do you have on hand to list? We should all be able to answer that question. I'm going to keep asking it. It's also a good reminder for myself because I follow the same thing. So how many days of unlisted inventory do you have on hand? We should all be able to answer that question. And our list is our listing area, our photography area. Are those things organized? If our listing area, our photography area, our shipping area, if those areas that we use every single day are disorganized, it's going to take us longer. I don't feel like we have to have a contest on how fast we can do things. I feel like I'm only competing with myself, but I'm full-time. This is what I do, and I do have to be really efficient or things fall apart. But if you are a casual lister, you're a hobby lister, it's fine if it takes you a long time. However, you owe it to yourself to be organized, to give yourself the best shot that you possibly can have at doing a good job and doing it well. Because why take an extra 20 minutes shipping because you don't know where your tape is, you don't know where your scissors are, your bubble wrap walked away, you don't have a box that fits. Why take more of your day? Even if your day is going to be spent at the beach, wouldn't you rather be at the beach? Right? But if we're full time and our things are disorganized, things can really fall apart. Because now I go from under a minute shipping per item to it might take me 10 minutes per item. I don't have that kind of time available to me right now. So make sure that those areas that we use every single day are organized, whatever that means to you. And we're going to go over different stations this year. Again, I realize I've talked about it before, but it's something we can always come back to because there's new people that have joined. I want to see their stations too, and they can learn from yours, even though you've shared with us before. If you share again, different people are going to get it. When we feel organized and we plan ahead, it makes everything better. I don't care what kind of seller you are, it makes everything better. Last night, I'm kind of at the mercy of when Jen Rowdy pulled my inventory, but they pulled it early last night and it was like right at the time I usually go to bed. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to try to, I had 67 items to go out for this morning. And I thought to myself, you know what, I never look back and regret doing things ahead of time or doing more than what was expected of myself. And this morning, I was so glad that I'd done half my shipping last night. So, do what you can. And I also have tried to take over this thought process of when somebody asks me to do something right now, or I think I need to do something now, instead of writing it down on a piece of paper, I ask myself, why not do it right now? Why can't I go do this right this minute? And if it's because I'm in the middle of something else or I don't have time, that's fine. But lots of times I have the time, I have the ability, I need to go knock it out. Instead, I'm writing it on a list. Harry says for him, resetting to zero is the key to organization. He struggles with it. Yeah, I agree. Resetting to zero is huge because otherwise things kind of, you don't always know what's what, even though at the time we know. Do you guys ever go back and like, well, I know I'll know that tomorrow, and then you don't know that tomorrow because it's left you? Those things happen to me a lot. Nancy says we can always use reminders no matter how many times we've heard it. Yeah, and that's why we share stations, because maybe your organization of your inventory station when you shared it in August with us is totally different now. Maybe you've moved on to a different system and you can share what you did, even though it was one little change. Maybe it made a big change and it can make a big change for the rest of us too. So we can always learn from each other. It's an ongoing process. I want to use those topics and thoughts to get your plans together. So tomorrow I want us to talk about how that, like what thoughts did this make you jingle? Like what made you go, wow, I didn't think about that. That was stressing me out. Right. And then Thursday, we're going to talk about, I'm going to try to make these changes in these things for 2025. So they're two different conversations and I want to have those. So, I want to talk about action on Thursday, right? So tomorrow's going to be a little bit about feelings, like, okay, I didn't realize I was feeling stressed, or that I feel like my organization isn't quite right. And Thursday, we're going to talk about actions, a little bit different. So actions on how we're going to make it different. So we're going to predict results because we're making them happen. I don't like waiting for things to happen to us. We sit and wait for things to fix themselves. We hope, then we're just wishing, right? And that's why I don't love New Year's resolutions. I feel like a lot of New Year's resolutions are, I'm gonna lose 50 pounds, but you don't have any plan of action to make it happen. Well, now you're just wishing, and I don't do a lot of that. So let's have action so we can know that it's going to happen to us, and we'll be prepared for the fact that we're gonna have problems along the way. It's not always gonna work perfect. That's okay. That's life. So if you're not sure about a category or all of it or whatever, ask us. Maybe we've been there and done that. Maybe we know, like, hey, you know what? I made that small change and it was life-changing for me. So luckily, we have an amazing group of people here that have all different levels of experience, and they're all valuable, because even new sellers, they can give to me because you guys see things from a totally different standpoint than I do. And I'm a little set in my ways about certain things. So maybe you can come at me and say, well, I do it like this. And it can, make me have a new idea too. So we can all learn from each other on that. So I want to do that. And then on tomorrow or Thursday, we're going to talk about the contest that I'm going to start. It's basically, there's two different levels, beginner and medium and advanced. If you're a beginner, you need to be a beginner, right? So, like if Larry's like, well, I'm kind of a beginner, like, no, you're not, Larry. Hit it on the next list, right? So the beginning I want you're beginner, like you're new in eBay in the last like 3 or 4 months, maybe even 6 months. I'll open it to 6 months. You've been doing eBay for 6 months or less. You're just learning the ropes, you're just getting started. That's a beginner. Everybody else needs to be working off the other sheet. Basically each thing I have on there will be worth a certain amount of points. So like some of them are really easy, like share the YouTube channel, subscribe and share to the YouTube channel. Easy points, right? We can all do that. And other things are going to be like attend a certain amount of calls, or list things with X amount of profit. And each group has the same amount of points potential. And some points aren't going to be valid for certain people, right? There's certain things that just don't fit us. But I tried to make it enough fair enough so that, basically if you're participating and you're posting to the, and if you can't attend the live calls, it's still for you because you can share your results in the Facebook group instead of the call if that works better for you. If you can make the call, I would love it if you did both. If you share your results of things, and I'll post those in the Facebook group. And we'll go over them more on the call. But basically it's to get people participating and sharing and posting questions and answering questions and sharing the Facebook group or sharing the YouTube channel and just getting out there. If you haven't shared the YouTube channel or subscribed, it's under Reseller Revenue. I'm going to be making, because starting at the first of the year, only one of our calls in the morning is going to be posted to Facebook or to YouTube. So I will be making extra content, hopefully, to schedule over there to keep. I'm using the YouTube channel to hopefully help grow the group, because that's our focus, is to continue this group of people working together, providing the community. I will put out the new schedule today, probably right after this call. So not much changed about it. We have some slight changes, because of the wake up and resale call is at 9 a.m. Central instead of 8. So then we will have a community workroom time from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And that's just basically, you don't have to stay the whole time. You can pop in and out, and everybody's just so we can work together. It's just a time to work together, and Russell will come in there when he absolutely can. So I think it'll be great. And so the prize for the contest is the person with the highest points each quarter. Actually, maybe I have it every month. I might have it every month. I have to look. It might be every month. Gets a free one-on-one coaching session with me, and they have to, I think it is every month. So, and I'm totally fine with, I have the rules written down, I'll give it, but basically, whether it's per month or per category, whatever it is, it's all written out. Gets a free coaching session. And then at the end of the year, whoever has the most points will get a free month of group. So for the following year. So I think it'll be good. And if there's a tie, I have it in there how we do the tie too. So it's based on net sales. So I think it'll be great. I'm more than happy to give away that one-on-one coaching, because while I usually provide it, it's usually $75 a session. It's usually 45 minutes to an hour. Unless you're at the $34.99 level, then it's $50 a session. And we just decide when a time works, and we're in a private coaching room. And I'm more than happy to give them away because I like helping people anyway. And I think people get a lot out of them. So that's what I have for you guys today. I'm going to go ahead and turn our recording off, and then we can chat a little bit. Make sure you do go and check out the Facebook group, because we do have one more day on Patreon if you go to Patreon to watch all the videos. Catch them while you can.